put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning. Good morning.
Welcome back to the Morning Show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie, and we begin this morning our conversations in studio with Senator Laurence Hislop. And we're going to speak primarily about a back-to-school drive. Yes, our children are getting ready to go back to school. Can you believe it? The vacation period has come to an end, or almost is coming to an end, and our children are back to school on Monday morning. Good morning, Senator, and welcome.
Morning, Adanna. How are you doing?
I am well.
Tobago.
Right. It's always a pleasure having you on our program this morning, and of course we're talking about back to school.
Yes.
And as I was giving that little snippet there, I'm thinking, wow, 2 months gone already. It has gone already. You know, sometimes you're thinking, oh gosh, I can't wait for school to open to send back the children to school. But now I'm thinking 2 months is already gone, you know, and you know, we're getting ready now to go back to school. Things to look forward to: traffic on the road.
Oh no.
Traffic on the road, you know, and of course getting our children ready.
Yeah.
So we have the books, we have the uniforms, and now we have this back to school drive. So tell us what this is about.
So this is the third year running that we're doing back to school haircut initiative. It's primarily for, I've been getting some licks for it because people have been asking me where are the girls, but it's primarily for our boys and our young men. You know, a haircut now may cost a parent, $50, $60, $75 for a kid cut. And so it's just a small way of sharing that expense or easing up the pocket of the parent. We also will be doing stationaries, book bags. There's some selected children as well that we will be catering some of their textbooks for. So that is what is happening on Sunday coming, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We have two venues. We had a challenge with the venue in Mason Hall, and we had to shift. But we're asking parents to register. We have a number of children who are registered already. And so this is an opportunity for me to give back in some small way, to help out a parent. A haircut gives any young man a level of pride, if I were to say. I don't know about the young men now. We didn't really like, and I know your producer could speak to this, we didn't really like the kind of haircuts our parents used to give you to go back to school all the time with muff and a clean back and muff and all those kind of things. But our barbers are trained barbers. As I said, we have two venues, one in Mason Hall. Last year we did Delaford, and we've decided to come down to Roxborough a little bit to treat with folks in the East as well.
Absolutely amazing. And we're talking about what is the capacity in terms of how many haircuts do you plan to do on those 2 days? Because I know a lot of people kind of wait until the last minute because you want your cut to be fresh.
Yeah, cut had to be fresh.
It had to be fresh. Nobody going in the week to get a haircut. No.
Fresh, right?
So what is the capacity in terms of how many persons are you able to manage at each of the stations?
Well, last year we did in the vicinity of about 60 haircuts. And so we have the capacity to deal with, I would say, up to 100. Because we have a number of barbers at each station. And the guys, it's simple haircuts that they do. Well, you know, it's back to schools, you know, parts and all of these kind of things. Simple haircuts, the guys move very quickly. You're looking at between 20 minutes to half an hour for a kid cut. Yeah.
And how do you register? Because, I mean, you don't want everybody to come.
Yeah.
And as much as you want to help as many persons as possible, you kind of want to control your crowd, your crowd control. So how do you register to secure your spot?
Well, you know how our people are. So we have the numbers. The numbers on the flyer that were up on the screen that you can WhatsApp or you could call on or WhatsApp. The WhatsApp only is 305-3215. That you could send your message, and the call or WhatsApp number is 704-6016. There's also a QR code that you can scan and do your registration that way. So we have an idea of the numbers that we're dealing with. But even though we have that system in place, you know, we have our folks who like to come last minute, who like to walk in. And as much as possible, we don't turn away anybody. We've never had to turn away any child from receiving a haircut the past 2 years. And I don't think it will happen this year. But we are still advising you to register so we have an idea of the numbers that we do.
And especially as you have a time span in which you want to get it done between 11 and 4
So
p.m.
11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday.
You also spoke about giving away stationery supplies as well to students. Is that a registration process as well, or is that a sole select process based on your discretion? How is that?
Well, there's some instances where we've selected children, but the stationaries go along with the registration. So once you register for a haircut, part of that will be that you'll receive a stationery pack.
Oh, okay. That's absolutely amazing. It really, and it helps parents as well, because sometimes, even as much as prepared as you are, sometimes you forget something. Oh, sure, I forget to buy a pack of pencils. I forgot to buy a sharpener.
And then you'll need it later on in the term or even in the year. So it helps. The child may not use it immediately, but at some point in time,
because they like to lose pencils.
Well, pencils and pens and so on, they will lose. Yeah.
So these things really do come in handy. So I want to applaud, of course, this initiative. And as I said, this is the third year.
Yeah, third year.
What has the turnout been like over the years? I know you mentioned a lot of people come out.
Yeah.
Do the parents come out? Do they stick around while they do the haircut? What happens during the course of the day? Is there any?
Yeah, the refreshments. We give complimentary refreshments to the children. Parents stick around. This year, what we're seeking to do, we haven't fully finalized it yet, but we're seeking to have counselors on board that could have a conversation with the parents about the preparation for back to school, if there are any anxiety taking place and so on, how they treat with anxiety for first-time students, or even students who are returning to school. So we plan to have that initiative on board this year, so that whilst the children are waiting for their haircuts, the parents can sit, talk with a counselor. Even the children may be having some challenges. They can sit with trained counselors to just have a conversation, to put them at ease, to tell them what are some of the things they ought to look for, even to share advice about things you ought to stay away from at school. Yes, because we know
it's definitely needed in these times.
Because we know that there are some negatives in our school system, and so this is part of the expansion of the initiative, that we hoping that we could get a commitment from our counselors to be there on board with.
And this is so amazing, right? And I want to speak about the emotional aspect of this. Earlier you mentioned, back then you didn't really like the haircuts that your parents used to give, so you want to give an opportunity for the guys to get, something really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And when we give back, it's because we see that there's a need that needs to be filled. Well, how does it make you feel, right, as the person who is spearheading something like this, that you are actually making an impact in the life of somebody, not just the child, the parent, the home, the community, because it takes a village, really.
Yeah.
So on the emotional aspect, what kind of satisfaction does it bring to you?
Mm.
How do you feel when you're able to say, you see these 100 boys, I was able to impact their lives, and when they go out to school, they're going to impact lives as well. What does it make you feel? How does it make you feel?
Sometimes you can't really pin down a feeling with these things. It really touches you when someone will come and say thanks. A parent will say thanks, a child will say thanks. That you have children who will. I have a story of some kids who've been coming for the 2 years so far, and I would, from time to time, I would go to their school to either visit, have a talk with one of the classes and so on. And you will hear the parent, or the parent will call me and say, so-and-so say you was in school today, and they will be running on the corridor waving, and it means that you've made an impact on that child. It means that child sees you as a role model, and it reminds you that what you do has to be significant, and what you do also has to be upstanding and upright, because you have people who you don't even know that are looking at you, and it's really a humbling experience. As I said, I can't put any emotion per se on how I feel, but it's really a humbling experience to just give, to just be able to share, to give to help a situation.
Absolutely amazing. And it really is a humbling experience because you're really making an impact. You're really touching somebody. There are things that people need, and sometimes they suffer in silence.
Yeah.
They wouldn't ask for help. But the fact that you create this situation now, this opportunity now, they will come forward for the help.
Because the reality is that some parents do not even have the $50 or the $75. After they would have spent on school books and uniforms and so on, some parents don't even have that $50 or that $75 or $100 for their child to get a haircut. And so if we, in that small way, could take the load off of a parent, we're happy with it. I didn't mention, though, that I did say that we had to, because of some challenges, we had to move our location in Mason Hall. We have on the flyer Gems Car Park, but we had to move from there. So we now at the Sandra River SDA Church has an annex that the first settler there has so graciously said we can use. And so that space will be converted as much as possible so that we could have our barbers there being able to do the haircut. So that's it. So in Mason Hall, the location is the Sandra River SDA Church annex. And so we're looking forward to those persons who and Mason Hall is usually where we get the most of our boys from. So we get them from Mason Hall, from Moriah, we've done children as far as Canaan Bonaccord.
Wow.
That's to tell you.
And I was going to ask that, is it restricted to the location?
No. Once you register and you think that it is convenient for you to bring your child from wherever you want to bring them from on the island, it's open once you do the registration.
Absolutely amazing stuff there. Congratulations and all the best. And parents, you can bring out your children this Sunday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. 2 locations, Mason Hall and Roxborough, for their free haircuts there. And of course, some stationery supplies for school. It's the Back to School Drive by Senator Laurence Hislop.
I also want to take this opportunity to thank the management of the Roxborough Police Youth Club, who as well has provided that space for us to be able to do that. So these entities have seen the benefits of it, have come on board and have said, yeah, no problem. When I called at Roxborough, immediately the response was yes. When the situation arose in Mason Hall, the immediate answer was yes. Even at GEMS, the previous 2 years, we've had no issues. The immediate response has always been yes. And so we want to thank them as well for their contribution to this initiative.
And very important is collaboration, because each time I speak with a guest on the show, and anything coming up in this space, and you're always asking for donations or sponsorship, I like to ask about the collaborative effort. So I'm happy that you have persons who are willing to come on and just, freely assist with the program and ensuring that it comes off successfully. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go for a short break before we continue conversations in studio this morning. And as we go for a break, we invite you to help us. Share the live. Share the live. Share the live. We'll be right back.
Good morning. Good morning. Morning. Good morning.
Welcome back to the Morning Show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie. Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue conversations with Senator Laurence Hislop. And in the air now, we're talking about the steel pan becoming our national instrument. We're talking about a home for the steel pan. We're talking about conversations about the steel pan, which includes the inclusion of it on the coat of arms. But what I want to focus on this morning is the fact that we can celebrate that the steel pan is now our national instrument. We have a international steel pan day, and now we're going to have a home for Pan Trinbago in Trinidad and Tobago, state-of-the-art building, as I mentioned earlier when we spoke about the news. And for me, it is a sense of national pride, because when you look at the history of the steel pan, it has struggled and fought to be where it is. And leaders of the pan, they really did fight to get to where we are today. And now we are at a position where it's our national instrument. What is your position where this is concerned? Primarily because there's been so much conversation in the public space. A lot of people, they have their opinions as they are entitled to. But where you stand, do you see it as being important and relevant for this time to make it our national instrument and to do all the beautiful things that we're doing with it now?
Well, the question I always ask when these things arise, if not now, when? And I think as you rightly said, Adanna, that steel pan has struggled. I remember I had the privilege to be one of the contributors on the legislation to recognize pan as our national instrument. And in that contribution, I made the point that growing up, especially growing up in a religious community, steel pan was not even allowed in our churches. It was seen as almost sacrilegious for steel pan to be played in our churches, and now you have steel bands playing all over the world before kings and queens and in high occasions. And I don't know, but whenever we see our instrument being played at particular occasions, there is a sense of pride that the average Trinidadian and Tobagonian feels. And it was long in coming. I've said that it took us too long to recognize the steel pan as our national instrument. It took us too long for steel. But you go back to the history, you'll understand why it took us that long. Because the instrument was seen as the instrument of the bad boys. The old calypsonians who've done so many calypsos on fights between pan sides, and it was war between this one and that one, and people even lost their lives and so on. So it had this connotation that it was a bad boy instrument. There's some of us as citizens who only saw it as a carnival instrument, a panorama instrument, and to this day there's some of us who still think that is a noisy instrument. But when you look at where the steel pan has come from and the accomplishments of steel pan sides and so on, and even its spread throughout the world, Japan and the United States and China and Australia, the instrument as our indigenous instrument created out of what you may consider nothing, what you may consider garbage, to a point now where it is recognized around the world as our instrument. I think as a nation, as a government, as a people, it was the right thing to do to recognize and to give this instrument its rightful place legally. Because as I said in my contribution that day in the Senate, that this instrument didn't need the government to say you are our national instrument, because people knew, Trinidad and Tobago knew this was ours. But what the government did was say, listen, we're going to put the legal framework in place. We're going to put the legal stamp on this instrument as ours. And I can be happier for something like that.
And earlier I mentioned the national pride, and a lot of people, when it was declared that it is a national instrument, majority of persons were very happy with it, and we stood in solidarity and was like, yes, something to celebrate in the national space. And then the announcement was made that the instrument would be put on the coat of arms, and then you saw a divide. You saw conversations about this side and that side, and so many conversations about division, having the national instrument on one of our national emblems. And the conversation, is kind of dicey where that is concerned. Do you see it as important to have it on our emblem, the coat of arms? If you do, what is the justification for same?
No, but you see, to me, any accolade that we could give our thing, because sometimes we play with the level of pride that we ought to have and patriotism that we ought to have about something that is indigenously ours. And even when the conversation came up, Adanna, about making it the national instrument, there was divide about whether or not it should be, and there were other quarters that felt that other instruments should be recognized as the national instrument. But the truth about it is, this is ours, and it is really unfortunate that as a people, the conversation could get to this, that the conversation is almost divisive, the conversation is partisan, when the truth about it is that Pan unites everybody. You will go to a Pan yard or a Pan theater, and you'll see every single spectrum of society represented in there, and also represented in the Pan sides, because you have from CEOs to laborers to Africans to East Indians to everybody, to Chinese. We have people from all over the world coming to play Pan during Panorama time with Pan sides. And for me, it's unfortunate that this is where this conversation has gotten.
I'm wondering, the subject of national pride. Is it that we understand what national pride is and what are the elements, the components of national pride? Should there be some measure of history being taught? Should the history be taught about our nation, the things that build our nation, that brought us to where we are? All the instruments, the people, the songs, the nation building songs and all these things. Is it that we have to ensure that they're back in the school, that they're integrated into the curriculum so people can understand from early on, the onset, these are the things that make up Trinidad and the Tobago? Because I feel as if we've moved away from those things, and so that is why the conversation is like that. That is why you could hear the division, them and us, whereas it's all of us. On our coat of arms, it says, together we aspire, together we achieve. And a lot of people have also used that to divide us. So is it that we have to go back to those things and teach the history so that we can understand where we are, who we are as a people, as diverse as we are in different cultures? We have one primary culture, which is Trinidad and Tobago.
And I totally agree with you. So even if the conversation of civics coming back into our classrooms should be something that ought to be had, because I wasn't in that era, but when you hear persons of the pre-independence era speak, and the level of the level of homage they paid to the crown as children in school, I don't think we have that level of homage and I don't even want to use the word homage, but we don't even have that level of pride or respect for our nation. And I'm not here talking about our political leaders, I'm talking about the country. And so when we see that this level of lawlessness that's taking place in our country, we wonder why. When we see this level of lawlessness taking place in our schools, we wonder why. And you have the level of disrespect that is shown amongst leaders across the board. It does not augur well for where we want to go as a country. And I don't think we have the level of patriotism as a people that we should. Patriotism a lot of the times is based on what we like or who we like, and not on country. Because I tell people, I have one of the high notes for me in my life as a young person, even to this day, is the number of independence parades that I've been able to be a part of. And you recognize that it matters not who, but when you exercise that level of pride in your country, we're going to be celebrating what, 62? 62? Well, it's 60. We are in our 60s as a country. And this is our 62nd anniversary. 62nd, yeah. And to understand what that means to us as a people, to say, hey, we have been able for 62 years, we've been able to manage our own selves. We're not independent in the sense that you are independent from other nations, but the fact that you can govern yourself. And we've seen other countries that may be older than us go through more significant falling apart. You look at the civil war in the United States and even in Spain, you had all of these coups and so on. And to think that a small nation of 1.4, 1.3, 1.4 people can still manage itself and not only manage itself, but even box above its weight class because persons respect you, nations respect you. I look at some of the comments sometimes and I wonder where we are as a people.
I think we need to have more meaningful conversations, and I think we need to have more engagement with the national public, because the conversations can seem to be at the head only, but we need to get some sort of not necessarily consultation, but involvement of the general public. They need to be a part of the conversation to know and to understand and to have experiences of our nation. We can't only be patriotic on Independence Day when we're in a parade. It can't only be because I'm sitting here and you're speaking and I'm feeling the pride. But it can't only be just this week. It can't only be on the 31st. We have to be able to do this from January to December.
And you see, not to cut you, but patriotism goes beyond celebrations of days. Patriotism goes as far as how do I behave in the streets? How do I drive? Am I a disciplined driver, or am I full of road rage?
Do I litter?
Do I litter? I eat something, I just drop it. Patriotism goes beyond days. It goes beyond being a good. It boils down to being a good citizen, and being a good citizen in all sense of the word. I try my best to develop my country in my own. And you see, we need to understand that development of our country is not just a political thing, but it is a citizen thing. It's an individual thing.
That's right.
When I go to work, do I give what is required of me at work? Or do I run away and say, mark me, or call in before and say, mark me down and I'm still home? Or I ain't coming to work today and I'm telling somebody, mark me down. Am I calling in too sick and a casual to go on Lime, to jump on a plane and go somewhere? And these are the kinds of things that we have to understand this is where patriotism is about.
And you know, when I used to go to primary school, and I'm sure you can remember too, every day we had to repeat the national anthem. We had to sing the national anthem and repeat the national pledge. Yeah. And so we knew it, and we used to live by it because we knew it. It was a part of us. Yeah. I'm not sure if they still do it in schools.
Well, I hope they do, because in order for us to get to that state as a country, it has to start within the school setting. The entire psyche has to be changed, and what we're reaping now could be as a result of us not having that level of pride that we ought to have in who we are, first and foremost, as an individual. And then secondly, when I have pride in who I am as an individual and I give my all because of me, then it filters into each and every one doing their part. And you wonder sometimes how the Australians are so patriotic, how the Jamaicans right next door to us are so patriotic. It starts with you as an individual. How do you see yourself in this place that we call home? That's Trinidad and Tobago. How do I see myself? And where do I want to see me as an individual go in this country? And that feeds into where we want to see the country go.
That's right. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Senator Laurence Hislop. Big conversation this morning, and I hope the conversation continues, not just today, not just during the independence period, but of course that we can have the serious U.S. conversations and change our culture as it relates to patriotism and national pride here in Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to go for a short break before we continue conversations in studio. And as we go, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.